I'm going to strain my voice to try and make sure it's fine. But anyone listening, I'm not well. And it does sound so strange for me, but I'll let you do most of the talking today.
Thank you.
No, of course. I'm so excited that you're here. Okay, so Cressida, welcome to Behind the Allergy.
Thank you, Lindy. Thanks for having me.
Welcome to Behind the Allergy, a podcast all about allergic conditions, hearing open and honest insights from the people who are behind them, from allergy reactors to free-from brands to allergists. I'm so excited to have you. You're one of the first people that I wanted to interview because the work that you've done with Free From Food Awards and just the space that you provide people and the industry is so powerful. And obviously I worked with you in Free From Food Awards around COVID time, and that was really insightful for me to see the other side of the industry, because I'm seeing the allergy side and as a consumer, and so seeing like the other side of it was very insightful for me, and it actually did open my eyes to it's not just me in the community. Like there are lots of other things, and also how things get made in the free from world, and it's not just allergy centric. And it opened my mind, and I realized that a lot of the stuff that is really good for a lot of the community isn't good for me, and that doesn't mean that it's not real free from. It's just a different side of free from. So I kind of was humbled with that experience, but it really showed me a lot about how the industry works, and I really appreciate that time because I have a new perspective when I am consuming, but also when I am talking to people about it. Like I have a different way that I say it now, and it's more nuanced and more open, rather than feeling like this is my experience of it. And so I try to share it to people who feel a little bit like, oh, well, the industry doesn't do things for me. I'm like, okay, but this is why. And, I'm able to share that with them. But we also, like, no one will know, but I've known you basically my whole life.
Yeah, it's mad.
And because Cressida went to school with my brother, so she knew me when I was very little. So like, obviously, like I didn't grow up with you, but I have known you for a long time. So that's really exciting that we are kind of in the same industry with our history. So obviously I want to talk to you about Free From, and I want to talk to you about the industry. But what I do want to go back in time. Because I assume this isn't what you thought you would do.
Correct.
Yeah. So I want to know how that all came about. Like when you were a teenager, you were with my brother in school. Like I'm sure you weren't thinking you're going to do a Free From Food Awards.
No.
So can you tell me a little bit about your story and who you were before Free From happened?
Don't think I've ever really known what I've wanted to be, and I've always really envied people who do know. And I think it's probably like a 40-60% split. I think the majority of people don't really have a clue and just sort of do whatever to get by. After I left school, I tried to go to university a couple of times, and I just couldn't make myself stick to it. I'd spent 6 months in the Falkland Islands shepherding on a sheep station, and I really loved it. It was amazing. And I think possibly that I'd seen a side of life that I could no longer kind of reconcile with higher education, maybe, I don't know. And after that, I travelled around the world a bit. I had my mind blown in India. It was the first place I landed, in Delhi. I think it was Delhi. And it was extraordinary. And then I came back from my travels, and I did sort of waitressing jobs, and I worked in a pottery cafe, and then I worked for a friend from school who's also a friend of your brother's, which is really lovely, and she was always quite mature, and so I kind of attached myself to her a bit, and we were founding members of an organisation called Peace Direct, which is a grassroots peace-building organisation, and we learnt non-violent communication methods, and we learnt how to support, so to financially and in other ways, how to support foreign grassroots organisations who were basically people living in villages who were trying to, in the Congo, there are people who were trying to help the child soldiers who had come out of the Congo, out of the war, and, you know, people who are normally persecuted because they've been abducted and then they've been made to, you know, that sort of thing. And there were people who were villagers as well, and they were trying to do things, and we had a lot of really amazing training by this brilliant woman who basically reframed our mindset so that we were not the big guys coming in with the money saying, here you are and now you can do your work. We were going in saying, what do you need from us? You know, we have resource, we're a charity. What do you need from us in order to do your work? You need to tell us what to do. And I think that was, for me, that was a real fundamental, it was kind of humbling, I think. I mean, I don't want to sound like a dick, but it was sort of, you know, when you grow up in the West and you encounter other cultures and you just don't really have a clue, but you know that you're probably inherited the cause of a lot of people's issues, and that it's just nothing. You know, there's sort of, I don't know, it was just, I guess it turned my brain into a different creature, possibly. And then I also, for Peace Direct, I was doing admin and accounts, so I wasn't in the peace building bit, but I really loved it, and I worked with a lot of really amazing people with whom I'm still in touch. And then I got married, and I had a baby, and my mother-in-law said, when you go back to work, if you don't have a career, then just get a job close to home. So I managed to triangulate my home with my son's childcare and my job by answering an advert in the Ham and High. We lived in Gospel Oak at the time. And that was how I came to be part of Foods Matter, which then evolved into Free From Food Awards. That was how it happened, really. And the advert that I responded to was quite dodgy. I think the reason I responded to it because it was £12.50 an hour, and most jobs that I was suitably qualified for were like £10 an hour. But it was quite the advert that the Free From Food Awards founder Michelle put in the Ham and High. I made it sound like she was a crazy religious nut who with loads of cats, and you had to come and I had to come and do some sort of subscription to the then magazine. But actually, when I met her, I realised that it was all about free from and allergies and that sort of thing, and so it was quite a relief. But yeah, and I've been there ever since. So that was 2008. I think my son was just 1 when I started.
Wow, that's such a journey, and I like that it fell in your lap, because for me, Michelle obviously is, I don't even know, like the hierarchy of Free From Food Awards, but you are just such a staple of it. And then, you know, I think I don't see Free From Food Awards without you. Right, so it's interesting how it just came into your lap and it was already basically established, and then you came in and helped take it to where it is today.
Yeah.
And so with that, in that journey, you had to learn probably a lot about Free From and a lot about the industry and things like that when you didn't really have that background before.
Yeah, I had no background in food at all. And so for the first 6 months or so, I was managing the subscriptions to the magazine, and the magazine was all about food allergies and intolerance and all the diseases around it, like chronic fatigue or, I don't really know, you know, dizziness and headaches and all of those kinds of things. So it wasn't specifically food allergies, but we used to do this this sort of tasting session every month, I think, and it would be about a specific product like biscuits. And back then it was mostly gluten-free stuff that was out there, so we would go and buy all the gluten-free biscuits we could find. So we had, I don't know, there's about 4 or 5 major supermarkets locally, so we just go and buy them, and then we'd get some of Michelle's friends over who also had a bit of knowledge and understanding about Free From, and we'd eat them, and then we'd critique, and we'd score them, and then we'd publish it, and it was the centerfold of the magazine, so it was like they'd fall open to this amazing load of information about what the ingredients were, what it was free from, you know, what it tasted like, where you could buy it, all that sort of stuff.
I love that.
Which basically is all the stuff that we now share with the consumers on the website, and that's so that it's remained as it was, the central tenet of the Free From Food Awards is to provide information to the free from consumer. And so that's where it started. And it was actually the idea of a friend of Michelle's who founded and ran D&D chocolates, which were, I think they were free of all top 14 allergens except for soya, I think. Can't quite remember. And it was his idea. He said, this is great, but this needs to be bigger. You need to put sort of, resource behind it. And so we did.
I love that, how it can change. Like, you kept the same ethos of what it was always, but it's just grown. And I think so many people, especially now with social media and things like that, they feel like they have to have a full-fledged idea to start something. And I think what do you actually want? And you have to keep that the whole time. And so, like, obviously, like, my channel and my platform has changed over time, but the ethos has always been a community. I want to build a community. I want to meet friends. I want to meet people who understand my thing. And I couldn't have done this podcast a few years ago. Like, I needed to go on this journey in order to be like, oh, this is where that's going to happen. That's where this connection is going to happen. So I think, I remember when we did one of the awards and I had to do a podcast upstairs with the old podcast that I had, because I was like, I was just trying to create something. I was trying to connect with someone, with a community, and the Free From Food Awards helped me in that respect. And, I think all the time for me, it's all about community. And like with the Free From Food Awards, it's all about sharing the information that I think a lot of the time gets withheld from the consumer about the process and about how it's being made. And I think when it comes to allergy, we need that. We need to know how this is happening. We need to know, that a company has decided to go nut-free or not go nut-free, or we need that information. I think Free From Food Awards does a good job of bridging that gap between the industry and the consumer. Because I always find that I only truly trust companies, when I know the person inside of the company. And so this is why I wanted to do the podcast, is to allow people to connect to the brand founder, the CEO, whatever, so that they will trust the company. But you can't know that if you don't know their face. And like, as much as I love Tesco and Sainsbury's and things like that, I usually don't buy own brand if I can buy the brand that I know the founder is on social media and I know them. It's the face, I think you guys do a really good job of bridging that gap.
Oh, good. Okay. Well, that's good, because there are a few things that are really kind of obvious and central to the Free From Food Awards. One is that we feel and have felt very strongly that the consumer needs to have all the information, as much information as possible. And there are so many, I don't know if vagaries is the right word, but there's so much vagueness around free from and manufacturing methods, and it all comes back to, Michelle used to say in the old days, it's the companies that know somebody with a food allergy that make the products, and so so those are the ones that you will be connecting with. So like you mentioned Lazy Day Foods the other day, and Sally and Ema, I can't remember how you pronounce her name, but they're still there, they still run it, they understand it. So you're going to get something that's trustworthy, and like with Genius, Lucinda did the same thing. And I remember about 7 years ago, Genius had a bag of flour mix up in the warehouse, and they recalled a lot of products, and they made a big noise about the fact that this had happened, and it was just so honest and straightforward, and I don't think their reputation was damaged by it because they were so open about it. And I remember ages ago, and I was trying to do some sort of little social media things, and having a quote from Natalie Newman about we just want to know what's in the product, then we can make the decision. But if you're not going to tell us what's in the product, we're completely powerless. And it's still really difficult, as you know, to convey what is in a product from the packaging, the translation from the warehouse and the factory to the packaging to the supermarket shelf, or the packing wherever it's coming from, it's still really difficult, and it's not perfect. And the Free From Food Awards evolves every year to try each time to make it better and more accessible for the consumer. So like there are things like you did recently on Instagram, a thing about just because it's not free from for me doesn't mean it's not free from. And I really like that, because that's people come and they go, well, it's got may contain for nuts and peanuts, and you're like, well, it's free from everything else. And yes, of course, that's not ideal, but it's suitable for everybody who doesn't have a nut and a peanut allergy. So, and it tastes delicious, or whatever it is. I think the main frustration is that the legislation and people seem to somehow get in the way of it being a trusted industry, like 100% from top to bottom, I suppose.
There's people who, like you said, have it in their family or have it in themselves that they want to make something, and it's hard to make something, even though, Julianne from Creative Nature, it took her, like, she tries really hard to share to people that, like, they do avid testing and constantly, they spend a lot of money to make sure that no product it has what they say it's free from.
Yeah.
But not a lot of companies do that.
Yeah.
And so they really try to share, but then there's still people that go to them and go, well, I can't have that because it has this, or I can't. And it's like, the thing is, when someone's doing something and someone's making noise in an industry and someone's changing the game, there's always going to be people who can't have that thing.
Yeah.
And as much as the only thing that I get annoyed at is the way that people talk to me. So like, if I say, well, I can't have this product, like, is there any way that, like, is it sharing on the line? And then they go, oh, if you can't have this, then you shouldn't have any of the products. I'm like, well, you're not telling me what I'm asking. And I think when that happens, I then just like, okay, well, that's not a company that you're actually trying to be a part of the community. You just want to make it because it's something that is easy to make, like, you know what I mean, like, or like it's a gap in the market. So like, and so I like to have companies who actually care about the community and who actually want to change things, and actually say, oh, is this what a lot of people are feeding back to us? Okay, let's change this, or let's try and see if we can change it, or maybe we didn't actually see how this is cross-contaminating other allergens, and like, maybe we can see that. And so one of the things that Free From Food Awards does is not just gives the information to the consumers, but also feeds back what the consumer is saying about the product, so that the company is able to be like, oh, I didn't realize this. And because a lot of the time, people, especially in the allergy community, there are people who do, but most people who, like me, have allergies for a lot of their lives don't speak up when they can't have something. So you just go, okay, we can't have it, and just move on. Tell me why you give the feedback back to the companies from the judging and from what people say to you.
So back when we first started doing it, I remember that we did a bread tasting, and it was mostly gluten-free bread. And I remember that there was a bread that came out of a tin, and so it was vacuum sealed in a tin, and it came out, and it was white. It was as white as bleached paper, and it sort of like had this glow, and it was. People were, so around the table we had people who had celiac disease or had food allergies or who were in the bakery industry, so that we had all sorts of people who knew about what bread should taste like, people who hadn't eaten bread for a while because they couldn't, and everybody's reaction was the same, as like, that isn't bread, like, there's not really much point in making it because it's just not bread and it's not doing anything. But if people, obviously if people don't buy it, so maybe people were buying it, if people don't buy it, then obviously they're not going to make it anymore. But here, let's help them make it better. So that's, and that's where that came from, was just like, you're making something and it could be better, because there are people who know how to make it better, but you don't, because you're a baker and you've always used gluten-filled flour, and now you're making something gluten-free, which is great. Your heart's in the right place, but it's not hitting the mark. And then also another area of complexity is, yes, the top 14 food allergens are there, and that's great to adhere to that, but also other foods can cause allergic reactions, and a big one, as you know, is pea and chickpea, which is sort of coming up. I heard that kiwi fruit has now got something like 100,000 people in the UK are officially allergic to kiwi fruit.
I'm one.
Yeah, okay. And that's kind of mad. So, you can pay a lot of money for a product development team or whatever, but if you're getting from the horse's mouth all the stuff that you really need to know, then that's good.
Yeah, and I also found when I was doing social media with you that you don't just have people who are in the community. So like you just mentioned, you have people who are in the industry, who maybe are in the industry on the other side of it, not free from, who know what it should be like, know what it should taste like, because, people who are celiac that are trying gluten-free bread, maybe they have had gluten bread in the past, but some people haven't. They can't judge what bread of like the gluten bread should taste like or should be like. Whereas the people who are in that industry will know. And so you're not having just feedback from the consumer, really. You're having feedback from the industry. You've got your yellow badge, the stamp of approval from the Free From Food Awards. I feel like, do you find that yellow badge means more now than it did in the past, or less now?
I think more now. I mean, I think it's more widely recognised now. We get a lot of random feedback from people, saying I pick up things when I see the logo and I read. I think we do try to steer away from it being a stamp of approval. I only say that because if people think that it's saying we've given this gold because it's free from, I don't know, it's a difficult thing. It's I guess it's like the other awards, they get 3 stars, and just because a marmalade's got 3 stars doesn't mean you're going to like it if you don't like marmalade. So, but any awards body that's worth its salt is going to offer its logo use to products that taste good, whether it's a gold or a silver or a bronze or a commended or anything else. So it is a really good way for people to recognise it. And people have said that they now go out their way to try new products that have our logo on, which is brilliant. And also we about 2 or 3 years ago we introduced metallic logos, because people just quite often weren't putting our logo on there, not even on their email signatures, and we were like, why do you not put the logo on? You've just won a gold. And a couple of them just went, and I did say, is it because it's yellow? And they were like, yeah. I said, okay, fine. Yeah, yellow, it's always been quite a controversial colour, I think, on a food. Well, I guess you imagine if you've got this sort of beautiful dark green and black edged gold box or whatever it is, you don't want to stick a massive yellow logo on it. Wear a beautiful.
Are you talking about Bouja Bouja?
I actually did have Bouja Bouja in my head. There was a cheese that won La Fromagerie that won gold, and I think for 2 of their products, and they put on the front beautiful gold metallic logo, and there's another logo on the other side from another awards body, and I'm not mentioning them on purpose. I just keep forgetting what other awards are called. And it looks beautiful. It's so elegant and lovely. And that's what we want. I mean, that's what, when I took over as a CEO in about 2019, that's what I wanted, as I wanted it to become beautiful and sophisticated and mature, away from kind of free from being like homebody kind of,
bargain cutter. Yeah.
So, and I think we're doing that. I think we've begun to climb the ladder of sophistication.
I think you have too, and I think I've been to many awards, and obviously you didn't stop during COVID. You did online awards and stuff, and I helped with one of them. But the last awards that you did, which was on the front end of the Allergy and Free From show.
Yeah.
And I think for me, that really solidified the marketplace that you're in right now. Of you set the industry standard of, you know, this is a business side, because there was a business event the day of the awards, and then you have the consumer side and you were in the in between. And I really felt like, I didn't know whether you've planned it like that, but I felt like that is who you are. You are the bridge between the business and the consumer. And I felt like that was such a good middle for the events. And I think a lot of people don't know what it is you do, because I think not a lot of people know really what it is awards do, because like there's awards in every industry, and it's always so different of how you judge and how you there's people who, you know, grant awards just for like there's just a judge, and then like a panel of judges, and they just decide. There's no food, there's no testing, there's no food, they just decide. And I think for you, it's a lot of work for getting the products in, and you need to have the right amount of panels, and every single category is judged as a different panel. You have note takers, you have, you know, a full list of, you know, questions and responses and notes, and like it, and then you have to collate every single thing that happened in order to give feedback. And then you have to decide on the day, you know, there are some people, you know, we could have 5 categories that people really think are golds, and then you really have to dwindle it down, and then sometimes you do have to award 5 golds because you're like, no, but these are so it's not about like, well, we have to have 1 in each category and it has to be this, and it's like, it's so intricate and it's so different in every single category. And that I also didn't understand until I worked with you. So I think a lot of times, not that you are mysterious, but I think, and that was also quite interesting when I was doing social media, is like, how much do we say and how much do we not say? And I think that's why I wanted to have you on, to like show to people like really what does it take to get that like, not stamp now, but to get that like sticker, that you know, that gold, that bronze, that silver, that finalist, that what does that even mean? You know, because it is something where like, that is for our community, is our stamp of approval in that sense. It's like, it is something where we can gravitate to, whereas like in other times it's like the quality awards or something like that, like, you know, and people are looking at them as like, oh, this is what I'm going to pick because they have decided that this is the best. And like, I want to know, like, what does the judges think this is the best? And it has to taste the best, and it has, you know, and when it does have that, like, I don't think I've ever, if I can eat it, I don't think I've ever had something that was gold and thought, they missed the mark on that, because it's a lot of people giving their opinion. And if somebody's like, this isn't gold, you do bunk it down to silver. Like, it is a community collective of deciding what you are awarding it to. And, you know, I think that's something where like, it can take hours to deliberate.
It does. It takes a lot. It's a huge amount of work, and it's so difficult. So we have our panels, and then we try to decide medals at the end of the panel, and that's in itself really difficult. But then we also occasionally we send products out to remote judges, and then we have to wait to get their feedback. And then, you know, sometimes we will, I say, run a product through. I mean, you know, we will present a product to 3 different panels of judges because we are pretty sure it's a really good product, but the feedback's coming back saying it's not. Or the other way around, we're not sure it's a good product, but the feedback's coming back saying it is. So we have to be careful that we're not, you know, it's not product 1, so everyone loves it, but they're just really hungry, you know, at the beginning of a judging session. And then we'll put it into a different position, or we'll serve it after some savoury if it's a cake or whatever it is. And yeah, it's not like Quality Food Awards or Great Taste Awards, because you're not just taking into account the ingredients and the taste and the texture. You're taking into account whether it's suitable for people with food allergies, and how it sits against other free-from products, and how it sits against, in quotes, normal products that are not allergen-free in any way at all. And it's really, really complicated. And then the other thing that we do is that where a food is to be prepared, so I know, let's say a Yorkshire pudding mix or something that's gluten-free and dairy-free and egg-free and everything like that, we'll prepare that as if you, the consumer, had bought it and had taken it home to have for your Sunday lunch with your family. So, your oven is your oven, so it might have quirks and difficulties. And, we use our ovens, and I do most of the cooking of products now. We used to have wonderful chefs, not professional chefs, but wonderful people who we work with who came in to cook, who were just family members who liked cooking. So we never had professional chefs, except for once we got an amazing chef in to come and play with some products, and that was great fun. But yeah, so we tried, the products have to be suitable and good for the consumer. So if a product arrives with us, it has to come as it would arrive with the consumer, whether you posted it to the consumer in a box or whether they bought it in the shop or the supermarket or whatever. And then that's another thing, so free from consumers can be vegan, they can have celiac disease, they can have whatever other allergies, they can be vegetarians. So you're not just looking at that aspect, you're also comparing it to those products that I can't, it is really complicated. And you also, you like at Christmas, so we've just done the Christmas judging, and we had loads of mince pies entered, and we had some of them were sold by supermarkets, and some of them were, made by small companies. Yeah. So it's almost incomparable, but it's not, because you have to compare it because they're both mince pies. So it's very complicated, and we scratch our heads a lot. And luckily we have not only a pool of about 200, 300 judges to pick from, but we have people who've been with us since 2008. And then people who come new each year, and some people stay and some people don't, and and it's amazing. And we're so proud of our judging methods that maybe actually it hasn't happened for a couple of years now, but once a year we get a disgruntled entrant who's entered something, and then they email in saying, why didn't I get a silver or a gold or whatever, and they say, oh, you've given loads of golds to the supermarkets and you haven't given, and we say, okay, well, logo for, or prize for entry comparison, the supermarkets probably get fewer logos, medal-winning logos, proportionally than the independent brands do, or the smaller brands do, possibly because a lot of the better, handmade food, the innovation comes from the smaller companies, and then often it's replicated by the supermarkets. And also we invite people to come along on a judging panel. So we have a lot of old entrants and manufacturers, and then they come and they sit with us, and then they're like, actually, it's really good. Your methods are really good. Yeah. So we're really proud of everything that we do, but it is totally exhausting. Yeah. But it's great because, unlike most jobs, it peaks and troughs throughout the year. We have 2 cycles of awards, so we get some downtime in between each one, which is great.
What would you say to that person who's just starting to come into this industry? Like, what is that thing of, you were saying, how would, because there's people who want to come into this industry and not sure what to do, or not sure what avenue to take. Like, what would you say to her, being like, of your journey so far?
Well, I have no regrets about anything, and I have been really fortunate to have worked with Michelle for so many years, and we work together less now, but has been amazing. A lot of really fantastic people like you have come through the Free From Food Awards, and it has evolved perfectly, beautifully. I am so lucky to have this job, because the hours have been super flexible, and I was a single parent raising a child, and so it was, it's been tiring from that aspect. But I lived in a village where a lot of my family were, so if I had to leave my son, he was always with friends and family, which was good. and he's great now. So I would probably say don't feel guilty when we're leaving him alone at the age of 5 for a week to go to London, even though you'll never get over that kind of, all those bits. But it's all good. I think ears and eyes open all the time, and don't be afraid of making mistakes. Not mistakes where people's lives are at stake, but mistakes of sort of saying the wrong thing or getting it wrong. I think quite early on I was quite afraid of coming across as really ignorant. I mean, I really literally had no idea about anything before I started at the Free From Food Awards. I didn't realise that supermarkets were supplied by companies that made their products for them. I sort of thought that like Tesco had all these factories making different things all over the country. I just had no idea. And
that was something that you told me, because I was like, wait, I recognize this product, and you were like, it is what you think it is, and my brain just went, what? Like, because I always was like, well, that bread may contain sesame, but that bread doesn't, but they're both baguettes, so how? And I'm like, oh, they're just made by someone else. And I just, it just blew my mind. And it also opened my world, because then I was like, oh, I can trust that. Because they are just made by somebody else. So it can be safe. But I just thought it was made by this one big company. So how could that be?
Yeah, it's mad, isn't it? The other thing that I feel so passionately about, and, it is just the way that food allergies and intolerances are perceived by people who don't have them. And I find it really, I don't have food allergies and intolerances, but I did avoid dairy for a long time, because when I ate anything with milk in it would make my forehead sweat, and I had a sore throat, and, so I didn't want to eat it. And so I was on the receiving end of people kind of going, oh, I don't know, why are you so fussy, da, da. And I cannot imagine, I would, if milk would kill me, I would be so angry. I'd probably have murdered quite a few people by now. And that's one thing that keeps driving me. It's like, have you any idea what it's like existing with this condition or these conditions? And I think that I would probably say, I'd probably want my younger self to harness that emotion and passion around it earlier on and have more confidence to kind of get a bit fierce. It's only in the last couple of years that I've started wanting to do things like podcasts or talks or stuff, because I was always just incredibly, not shy, because I'm not shy, but I think I was just really anxious about coming across like an idiot. And actually, we're all idiots, and it's fine, and you just say it. And if you upset someone enough, which hopefully I haven't ever, I don't want to, you can apologise and learn from your mistake, which is great.
If you are a nice person, you do that. And I think the intention is very important, because people will make mistakes. I'm sure I've said something. I was before I started working for Free From Food Awards, I was very adamant that like nothing is for me. Like I'm in this community and nothing is for me. But I was excited about the fact that it was for other people, but I was just like, I can't eat any of this stuff. Like, I was a judge at the beginning, and I was like, I just can't eat any of this. And it's like, as much as that's great feedback for the fact of like the industry, like the fact of I have so many allergies and I can't eat the allergy products, it's not helpful for the awards. It's not helpful for the actual food, because it's not, I am very rare, right, of having so many allergies. So like, it's not just because I can't eat it doesn't mean it's not good free from. And like, that was a very hard pill for me to swallow, of being like, well, but it's not fair. Well,
you taught me a lot. I also remember when we had our Christmas party and we went to a restaurant in Hampstead, and I was like, fine, I'll just say something about the fact that you've got really serious allergies, and you were like, no, I don't want you to say that. I really don't want you to draw attention and make a fuss. I've got my allergy card, it's fine. And I was like, okay, I would really like that. I like the big gesture, but and I think that for me is another thing, is that everybody who has food allergies and celiac disease is an individual. So the idea of just lumping everybody into one group is just sort of rubbish. And that's another thing, is because you do pigeonhole we all pigeonhole people because we all like everything to be neat and understandable.
It's easier.
And obviously people are all different. So some people want to walk in and everyone to know that they've got food allergies and to say they have to be careful. Other people are like, oh, piss off.
Yeah.
I just want to be quiet.
We're all
over
different
here.
people, yeah. Also, that person there at the Christmas party is very different to who I am now and how confident I am now. And I think that is coming to my 30s.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, no, if you can't make it for me, I don't care. But like, you can't just, you know, I have a lot more boundaries. And I always say to people, you're looking at me now at 32.
Yeah.
You know, you're 21.
Yeah.
I was not like this at 21. Like, don't worry. Like, it will get better. You will get more confident in life, in yourself. And I'm just helping you learn. So when you're ready for boundaries, there's resources there for you. But I didn't have boundaries until I was like 26, 27.
Well,
so like, you know,
it's early for some people, isn't it? So
well, that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm very happy, but
Yeah.
that is my story. And like, I'm like, that doesn't work for everyone, but I want to show you how like, when you do have that, it does change things for you. And when you do have a community and you have people, you're like, oh no, I deserve better. Yeah. Because they deserve better. Yeah. So I do as well. So I think it just changes, and it's why I wanted to build a community. Yeah. There's like a couple of things I want to ask you quickly is, what is the hope for the future of not just the awards, but of Free From and of you? Like, where do you see it taking? Like, where do you see yourself taking Free From Food Awards, or do you see yourself taking Free From Food Awards, or where do you think Free From is gonna go?
So I think Free From is in a really good place at the moment in terms of the quality and the innovation of food. I think it needs to get better at labelling and manufacturing protocols, and it just needs to like deepen. There needs to be a deeper understanding of food allergies, a deeper understanding of cleaning down machinery, and you know, that sort of thing. So I don't envisage a world where all food is free of all the top 14 allergens, because I think that's irrelevant. I think Free From will benefit from potentially an allergy czar if that can happen, because that I think will normalise things a lot. I think it needs to be just if things are taken seriously. It feels like time after time after time as just things aren't really taken seriously, and that also goes for people with allergies. You know, take your EpiPens with you. You be careful. Have your boundaries. You know, that kind of thing. But that comes from us parents educating our kids. You know, so I have had a lot of conversations with my son over the years and other kids who I know about their friends who've got food allergies or not. And the feedback is getting better, that people are, you know, my son's got a friend who's got a nut allergy, and, you know, that it's less weird than it used to be, which is amazing. But that's down to us as you say, sharing community. It's not okay for me, but it's okay for you. Or, you know, it's not okay for that kid if you're eating peanuts on the train. So just think twice about that kind of thing. And there are a lot of people doing really amazing things. And there are obviously a lot of really sad and awful happenings, and they just seem to happen mostly through some sort of lapse of attention or idiocy or mislabeling, that's what I want, is for those sort of things not to happen. Of course, there's always human error, but there seem to be negligent things happening, and I just want that not to happen. Yeah,
the first word I thought was neglect. Yeah, like you're just not like you said, not taking things seriously. Yeah. So then human error happens more often. Yeah. And I think I always say when like talking about EpiPens or allergies or celiac or whatever, and like it's never a one and done thing. Yeah. You can talk to someone once, but that doesn't mean that they're going to remember it a year later. Yeah. So it's not their life. So every time you go to a restaurant, every time you look at a product, read the label. Yeah. Tell them about your allergies, whether they remember you or not. Yeah. You have to remind them, because that is not their life.
The low level and high level trauma that you must exist with should be dealt with by professionals better. And the other thing is that there's a group, there's a team at the University of Central Lancaster, that is doing some research into how we read labels.
Interesting.
And there's a thing that they were talking about where you get people who are in allergies. Scans. Suitcase scanning stuff in airports. So there are people there who look at the scans, and things that are chemicals are shown up in orange, and there are things that are weapons or metal or whatever, and they're shown up in blue. And if you should have one person looking for orange and one person looking for blue, because if you get one person trying to identify orange and blue, the missing bit is much larger. So when we read food labels, if you're trying to identify whether it's got kiwi, crustacea, sulfites, peas and chickpeas, and then, I don't know, blueberries. So some of those are going to be bold, some of them aren't going to be bold. And the likelihood is the more food allergies you've got, the more allergies to more foods you've got, the more likely it is you're going to miss things off. So what they're trying to do is to find a way that labelling can be improved so that you can perceive everything that you need to perceive. So it's laid out in a way which the human eye is more suitable to noticing. I think I've explained that in a really bad way, but they're trying to get funding for that, and I think that would be amazing, because food labels have probably, they're probably just evolved from what, back in, I don't know, 1923, when somebody decided that we had to have all the ingredients on the outside, or whenever it was. Yeah. Actually, it wasn't 1923. But,
much later. Yeah, no, and I think that is really important, and I think, obviously, like, I do read it for my allergens, and then I read it for pee.
Yeah.
Because I'm always like, and then I just look for peas. Yeah. And then so it's very, I read it a lot of times for specific allergens, especially when I know that it might have it. And I think you're right. Like, it's important. I think, there's a whole other podcast about it, but like the recalling and like the ingredients and like just all these processes that we are not privy to, that I just think, wow, I feel like there's way more recalls now than there have been in the recent years. And I'm like, that's quite scary to me, that you can put out a product that would may contain or have an allergen in it. And how did you not know that? Like, it's like, don't put it out if you don't know, if you aren't sure, because why do you know now? You know, like it's that kind of thing. And it is scary. And especially when people have slight reactions or things like that to products, celiac or allergies, they have reactions, and they're like, why am I having a reaction? It says it's fine. It's like, we shouldn't be having that issue. So that's in a whole nother thing, but I really like how you said that you wanted to elevate Free From Food Awards and make it more elegant and make it like the awards. And I think it obviously is going there, and I love the awards as well. And I think it's so important to have people and industry people and people who are consumers and come and enjoy that process. And there's so many different companies now that I think there are so many more allergy companies that need to be putting themselves forward into the Free From Food Awards, because there's a lot of gluten-free and dairy-free people doing it, and you're missing the market, because there's now more people that are going to eat or have products that you could have been a part of. And I'm like, we need more awareness for the allergy products that are out there. So obviously you're doing a really good job, but like I would really love more allergy products to come into the awards. And you're not, obviously you try and seek them out, but also they need to come in as well. They need to, we need to try more products like that. And then I always think that there's loads of nut-free products that are gluten-free and dairy-free, but not a lot of gluten-free and dairy-free products that are nut-free. And I think we need to bridge that gap of having more top 14, more large, major allergen-free products, because that would be fun. But like, there are more coming, but I wish that more people put nut-free on their labels, even because I see them and then they are nut-free, but then I'm like, if you're not putting nut-free but you're putting gluten-free, does that mean that you're not nut-free? So it makes me, it's all so complicated.
It's complicated and it's vague and unclear.
So vague. Spices, I would love for someone to like actually tell me what spices they're putting in, or like flavors or whatever. Is it flavors or is it extracts? I don't know. And then I always end my podcasts with a question, and it's been more prevalent like recently, but how is your mental health at the minute?
Ooh, that's a good question. So I started taking serotonin uptake inhibitors about this time last year. It was about December, and it has fundamentally changed my mental health for the better. And I wish I'd taken them 30 years ago, because I've always had a very low level naggy anxiety that I think probably stops me from doing more things. So my mental health right now is good, even though we're coming to the end of a house renovation, which means that we haven't had a bedroom for 3 years.
Oh, wow.
And I'm feeling quite knackered by that. But obviously totally happy and delighted that we've got, nice rooms now. But yeah, thank you. That's a nice question. I like that question. And I'm really proud that I have taken some action to make things better for myself, because obviously you make the things better for yourself and your mental health, and then everyone around you feels better too. So it's nice.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming on and dealing with my voice.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for having me, and I hope you feel better. And your voice was beautiful.
Thank you. Thanks. Oh, that was so nice. Wow, that was actually one of the loveliest conversations.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, you spoke so well about, what it is you do. So,
Oh, good. I'm glad. I sometimes I find the words, sometimes they just don't.
no,
They don't flow.
I don't find the